Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Facebook Live today. Before we get started, I'd like everybody to do a volume check. Let me know if you can't hear me for some reason. And it probably is your device, however, because we have checked it on our end. I am in Western Massachusetts, and I have people in Tennessee, and they say they can hear me. So if you cannot, just make sure that the volume is all the way up on your device. And if you are having trouble with any parts of this being blurry, just bear with me. I do live in a rural area. We do have a pretty decent internet connection where I am doing my filming. In fact, I don't do it at home because I go to where I have a better connection. And sometimes the internet's a great thing. Sometimes it is less than we would desire. So just stick with me, and it probably will get better. It might vary a little bit, and hopefully it will be uniformly great. So what are we going to do today? We are going to talk about serger accessories. And let's go back. I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint so I cover everything. And today we're going to mainly talk about accessories for the Admire Air 5000 and the Admire Air 7000. These two sergers are our newest sergers, and they are air threading, and they are wonderful. And I'm going to do some of the accessories on the Admire Air 5000 and some on the 7000 to give you kind of a balanced view. Now, before I get started, I should probably introduce myself. I am Nancy Bronstein. I am a Pfaff educator. Generally, I travel around the country and do these classes, but you know how that goes right now during COVID. We hope to be back on the road very, very soon, and all of us really prefer to do things in person. I miss you all and hope I see you all in a class someday in the not too distant future. Now, we have structured this class to go over accessories. However, I want to go over a little bit about sergers and cover stitch for those of you that aren't familiar with serging. I'm going to assume that most of you are familiar at least a little bit with serging. That's why you've chosen to attend a class on accessories. However, I want to just fill in some basics to start out, then we'll jump into the accessories. Actually, before I start, I should let you know that I will be doing another Facebook Live in 2 weeks. Same time, same place, Pfaff North America Facebook page at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Central Time on the decorative stitches. Pfaff is known for their decorative stitches, and I'm going to show you how to do the more complicated ones, show you real fun things to do with them, some samples, and we'll have a great time. So if you're all interested in that, and I hope that you are, please join me. And if there is a decorative stitch related topic you would like me to cover, please put that in the chat and I will try to add it in. So with no further ado, I will start on talking about sergers and cover stitch. Now, when I first started to sew, which was over half a century ago, which I can't believe since I'm only 35, how did that happen? How is it I've sewn for over 50 years? Anyway, I have sewn for many, many years, and when I got my first serger, before I got it, I thought that they were just these mysterious beasts. You know, it's like they did all the stuff that I didn't know what they did, and they had their own lingo like serger and overlock and chain stitch, and what the heck was a looper? So I'm going to go over those things, those basics really quick, and then we'll jump into the accessories. So first of all, sergers, overlockers, same thing. Serger is used more commonly in the US, and overlock is used more commonly in Europe. Now, some machines do only serging and overlocking. I'm gonna move forward and just say serging. And some machines also do chain stitch and cover stitch, and I will explain the difference. Your more complicated higher end machines will do both. They'll do combo. Actually, some machines will do just serging, and they have standalone cover stitch, chain stitch machines as well. The Admire Air 500 is a serging only machine. And today I'm going to cover some of these feet that are in this list. These are feet that go along with the Admire Air 5000. It's a sweet little machine, like I said, that does air threading, which once you have an air threader, you just never want to go back. And these feet here are the ones that will work with the Admire Air 5000. If you want to add feet to your 5000, you need to buy the feet that are specifically designed for it. Your other serger, if you have an older serger, those feet will not fit. We have two kits. One is more of a utility stitching kit, and the other one is more fancy stuff. It's called the embellishment kit. Then on the second half of the hour, I'm going to go over the Admire Air 7000 accessories. Now, this is a combo machine. It does serging, and it also does cover stitch and chain stitch. So it has more feet. Oh, and I see I have a misspelling on this page. Okay, I have to fix that. Flat trim. I have to fix that misspelling. So anyway, the feet that have an asterisk after them are for the cover stitch, chain stitch capability of the Admire Air. So getting back to serging and cover stitch and what are these things? Well, why would you want a serger? What do sergers do? Sergers, first of all, sew very, very fast, faster than your normal sewing machine. And when they make a seam, they also can trim that seam and finish it off in one go so that you have a seam and it's finished and it's not going to ravel when you launder or with use. The other thing that they do is they work really well with knits. If you're going to sew knits, having a serger is a huge advantage because it's a very stretchy stitch. Like for instance, if you want to put something on a very stretchy top and you want that ribbed look, the serger stitches will stretch and go right back to where they were. And you have, I thought I had this on the camera and I didn't. The serger stitches, your fabric will stretch and the serger stitches will stretch and go right back to where they were. And you've got this nice finished edge on the inside. So this is super easy to do. You don't struggle with it like you might with your sewing machine trying to get this on. So having that ability to work with stretchy fabrics is pretty huge. Sergers will also do decorative edges on items. So actually I shouldn't have switched my camera. You can quickly make a very nice hostess gift, like make a set of napkins out of a fabric square by doing a rolled edge on these. I used a variegated thread. Let's see if you can see this on the camera. Probably not all that well, but it is a finished edge that goes all along the edge of the fabric so that it makes a very nice napkin. You know, anywhere you want a clean border, and you can use your decorative threads to create that, because that can be, you can put your threads in that would be too large to go through a needle of a sewing machine. So you could put like an 8-weight thread, decorative thread, razzle dazzle or something like that, and you can make some really nice borders. The other thing that sergers do is you can create piping very quickly. And so you create your piping. Piping, first of all, is something that looks like this. You encase a cord in a piece of fabric for a decorative element. And when you use the serger, you use the piping foot to make the piping, and it cuts the edge, trims it, finishes it off and all in one step. So if you were going to make piping on a sewing machine, you would create the piping and then you'd have to trim it. So this takes out one whole step, and it also trims it down and so that you end up with a nice finished edge. That's where it started. So that's not so nice, but there we go. And then you also use that foot to get a nice seam real close to the piping. so that the piping ends up nice and tight and professional looking. So I think it's, it's faster to use the serger to make piping and to install it. You can also use it to make straps and belt loops. You can do edge binding on t-shirts. If you have cover stitch, you can do a nice neckline on a knit shirt. You can do a hem. There's all sorts of things that you can do with a serger and chain stitch and cover stitch machine, which you'll see as I go through the accessories. Now, the question is, why would you want all these accessories? I hope I'm going to let you convince you of why you would want them as we go along. You can just imagine, if you're only a sewer, that if you only had one foot, your sewing machine would not be as powerful as it could be if you have a foot for every specialized technique. Do you need a foot for every specialized technique? Perhaps not. However, there's certain things that will go a lot easier, be a lot more fun, and you'll get more professional results if you have the right foot. Like, for instance, if you're a sewer and you want to put in an invisible zipper, maybe you could use the OA or 1A foot and kind of finagle it. I would much rather use an invisible zipper foot. It'll go much faster, go much easier, you'll have better results. Same thing with the serger accessories. You'll be able to do things you can't do without them, and or if you tried, you'd probably make a mess of it, and it'll be a lot more fun. So I'm going to show you a bunch of stuff that you can do. Oh, the other thing that I usually use the serger for is to make ruffles. If I want to make a ruffle on a pillow, I can make that very fast with the serger, and if I want, I can even put a rolled edge on the outside of the ruffle to give it some accent. So those are things that finished edge, knits, putting in elastic, ruffles, rolled edges, those are the things, those are my go-tos for the serger, as well as other things. Okay, so let's go back to my presentation here. And I don't think I left anything off here. So this is a picture of a pillow where I did I made the pillow with my sewing machine. I did the embroidery from a design that I created in our embroidery software, my SewNet software. And then I made the ruffle with the serger. So I want to show you how quick it is to put in elastic. So I'm talking about, doing something like this. Particularly if you have stretchy fabric and you want to put in some elastic, the serger is really a go-to tool. So I'm going to show you, I should mention that I know people on Facebook Live love to see live things, but I want to show you a whole bunch of feet. And with a serger and with a chain stitch and cover stitch machine, we've got 4 to 5 threads. Maybe we're using 1 needle, maybe we're using 2, maybe we're using 3. We're using different feet. And if I were to do all of this live, I could do half of what I can show you with my little films that I've made in advance, so that you don't have to watch me removing needles, rethreading needles, rethreading the machine. Although I am going to show you a couple of things right on the machine, but I'd like to cover more ground, and that's why I'm using films. So first thing I'm going to do is going to show you how to put in elastic on the Admire Air 5000. Now let's start this over again here. Let's see if it's going to start. Here we go. So as I said, this is the Admire Air 5000. And with the 5000, this foot looks a little different than the 7000. The stitch you're going to use is the 4-thread overlock with the standard overlock foot that comes with it. And there's this door on the side that opens up so you can slide in this attachment. It slides in, and there's a screw on the side that will hold it in place, and then you close up that little corner area. Then you're going to take your fabric and you place it under the bar, and there is a line on that metal piece to show you where to line up your elastic. Then you're going to close the white piece on top, and that will lock it in place once I get it where it should be. And that screw on the top allows you to make the gathers on the elastic tighter or looser. And I put my foot down and start stitching. See how fast this is? It's just amazing. And then it just makes this beautiful gather all the way along, and very, none of those stitches are going to pop. So it's really a handy tool if you put in elastic waistbands and those sorts of things in your sewing. So I was going to show you a little project I made recently. Once I got the Admire, put this on. Once I got the Admire Air 7000, I had 2 sets of serger feet, so I decided to make this little bag with using the elastic foot. And what I did is I put some elastic across both sides and then did some chain stitch down here to make little pockets. So then I could put all my serger feet in there. And while we're on this slide, just to explain the top part of the bag, this textured effect was made by using all my my jar of old threads, thread ends that I've been saving, and then a piece of organza on top, and then I did chain stitch to hold it down on top. So it was a fun thing to do. And whenever possible, I like to recycle stuff and reuse. So that was a project that allowed me to use the elastic capabilities, store my serger feet, as well as use up my old thread that I had laying around. And then maybe I should show you while it's on my mind. Here's the bag. And then this little tassel is made with the chain stitch capability using embroidery thread. So there's all sorts of things that you can do. It ends up being, it could be used for a necklace. It could be used for making a bracelet. There's all sorts of things you can do with embroidery thread. And this is using 3 different colors of embroidery thread in the looper. So once you are used to using a serger, you don't necessarily have to use only one thread in the looper. With embroidery thread particularly, you could use 2, 3 different colors and get a different effect in the stitch out. So that was the elastic foot for the Admire Air 5000. Now let's talk about beading. So you can do beading with either machine. I'm going to first show you the Admire Air 5000. And let's see if I can start this little video. So we're using the beading foot, and the 5000 also has this beading guide. The beading guide slides into the slot on the side of the machine, that door that you open up, and there's a slot with a screw. And it slides in there, and the screw holds it in place. And that little platform holds the string of beads in a straight line. So you want to use beads that have previously been strung. You can buy them at your big box stores. They come in a roll just like ribbon. And the first thing you do is you take your fabric and fold it in half, and I generally will press that. Then the pressed side of the fabric rides up against the edge of that white plastic platform. And then the beads go into the indentation on the side on the white platform. And what you want to do is you want to stick them back, and you want to keep an eye that you are not, you engaging the cutter, but it's pretty simple, and you get this really nice end result. So it can be, that could be a kind of collar on a cuff, on a fancy napkin, on a whole number of things. So now we have a question here. How do you feed the 3 threads through the loopers on the 7,000? What I would do, both the 5,000 and the 7,000 come with this long, thin wire that has a loop on the end, kind of like a lasso. Let's see if I can find it quickly. And that lasso, however you say it, well, not quite sure where I put it, but at any rate, both sergers come with this long, thin wire with a lasso on the end for threading things through the looper, your threads that are too thick to go through the air threader. So you would use that. I would put the 3 spools on the right-hand side of the machine. If you have an accessory spool holder, that helps as well. And then you just thread them all through the same pathway that as if you only had one, but you'll probably need to use that lasso to pull them through the air threader, because the air threader will do one, but I don't think it'll do all 3. I think you'd end up getting 2 out of 3. I just went right ahead, used the lasso. If I can locate it, I could demo that, but it is a very simple procedure. Basically, you thread the wire down through the air threader, and the hooped end, the noose end, is sticking up from the air threader. You thread like this, say sticking up like, see if I can demo this. So it's sticking up like this, and you put your 3 threads through there, and then just pull them through the air threader. So very easy. Let's see. I have been unable to push it through. It seems to stop at one point. Okay. So I'm going to show how you air thread. I think what's happening, I think I know what's happening, but let's table this question until I get to the air threader portion. And maybe I will locate my lasso too at that time, or I can just show you how to make one out of thread. So if you lose your little wire threader, you'll know what to do. So that's what I'll do when I get to the air threading, and I will address the question that someone had. Someone said, I had been unable to push it through. It seems to stop at one point. So I'll cover that in a minute. Okay, so we talked about, or I showed you how the Admire Air 5000 can attach beads as a decorative element on the edge of fabric. I think that, yeah, I'll come back to that. So I wanted to show you a little project that I made using decorative threads or using beads on the edge of some fabric. So this is a table setting, or could be used at a wedding shower perhaps. And this is using some silver beads on the edge of some old satin fabric that I had in my fabric drawer. And I think the silver beads really gave it something extra. And I spray painted the ball jar to match the silver beads. Now, I did this on the Admire Air 7000. So I made a little clip of how I did that, but it's basically the same concept, although the foot that comes with the 7000 is a little bit different. And I think that I forgot to mention that the Admire Air 5000, you have to have the feet designed for the 5000. However, the Admire Air 7000, our newest version, will also allow you to use the hobby lock feet. So if you, I'm sorry, the cover lock feet. So if you have the cover lock machine feet, those will work on the Admire Air 7000. And the hobby lock feet will work if they also work on the cover lock. So not all hobby lock feet work on the 7000, but if they work on the cover lock, they work on the Admire Air 7000. So I'm going to show you how the beading foot works on the 7,000, because it's a little different than the 5,000. So this is the actual project. The way that I made these flowers, I took the satin and I cut some strips with the fabric that were 5 inches and some were 6. And I folded it in half and pressed it. And I also starched it pretty heavily. And then applied the silver beads to the edge. So this is a little bit different application, or the foot works a little differently than the 5,000, but both do basically the same thing. Then after I put the beads on the edge, I used our wavy edge foot to create on the other edge, and that will create a little bit of gathering and also the ability to shape the flower and have it keep that shape. I also used the wavy edge foot on the ribbon that's around the ball jar. When you put some wire in this is just the same satin, just a more narrow piece. And I put the wire with the wavy edge foot on both sides with the serger. And then you can form, shapes that will stay in place. It gives it body and shape. And by having the wire on the other side from the beads, that you can pull the wire and make some gathers and also use it to wrap around a wire to stick it into your bouquet. So I'm going to demo that a little bit later. If we get to it, I'll show you how that's done. Basically, the curvy edge foot has a, see if I can make this picture bigger. The curvy edge foot has a hole right here that you thread the wire through, and then you're doing a very narrow rolled edge, and that is what the wire goes through. You can also use this foot to do use fishing line, and it will make a nice ruffled edge like in this picture. So you want to do that on, say, organza, and it can make this nice wavy effect. So I'm going to come back to that because I actually have the serger set up for the binder, and I will come back to the air threading demo and the wavy edge foot after I show you the binder. So I wanted to also show you the another foot that comes with the Admire Air 5000. And actually with the Admire Air 5000, you get 2 corded feet, corded foot A and foot B, and they're for different diameters of cording. In this demo, I'm using satin cording, or some people call it rat's tail, and you might not typically use something that thick, but at least in the demo you can see one application and see that it does work with that. This can also be used for different areas of garment making with specialized tapes, so that they're embedded in the seam and you don't get stretching with knits. So particularly in shoulders, often a tape or a cord will be put in there so that your shoulders don't get stretched out with use. So that goes right in the seam as you're sewing it. So I'll show you how this works. So again, this is the 5000, and this is the cording foot B, which is the bigger of the two. And there's a little hole in the end of the foot that the cord goes through, and a groove on the underside that keeps it in place. And you can use different decorative threads. This is a 3-thread wide rolled edge. So depending upon the thread you use, it could be, instead of an internal structural, technique. It could be more decorative. This could be on the edge of a napkin. It could be the edge of a cuff or a collar or the bottom of a top. So it can be very pretty, and it can also prevent overstretching. So it has two purposes. And so now I'm going to talk about piping. So I showed you the piping sample before. See if I can find it here. Well, not sure where I put it, but it's going to be in the video anyway. So I love piping. I think that piping is a really nice embellishment technique for garments. I put it on the inside the binding of my quilts for accent, home deck. In general, when you'd use piping for clothing, it's a little thinner and much thicker for home deck. Like if you're going to put piping around the edge of a pillow, you're going to use a thicker cord than if you are putting piping on a garment or on the edge of binding. So I put some piping on the edge of my binding here. And while I have this held up, this actually has some other serging techniques on it. It's made mainly with the serger. So these are strips made with a rolled edge finish that I wove together and then sewed down to create this lattice work. And then different decorative stitches to make the flowers and the piping as well. Okay, so piping. Actually, I should show you a garment too. I think that piping adds so much to a project. Like with this jacket that I made, you know, of course, what stands out is the embroidery, but the piping also gives it shape. And, you know, just is a nice accent. So I think it also has a nice slimming effect, which we can all use, right? So I'll show you how that works on the serger. So again, this is the 5000 and Meyer Air's 5000, and there's two piping feet that come with it. This is the smaller of the two, and there's a groove on the bottom that keeps the cording in place so it doesn't shift around and misbehave and you end up with piping that doesn't look so hot. And you probably use a 4 or 3 thread overlock stitch. And generally what I do is I put the cording inside of the fabric I've cut, and then I'm going to cut a little corner out of the top end so that I can get it into the foot more easily without it bunching up before it starts to sew the piping. So it makes it easier to get the piping or the cording in that groove underneath the foot. Then you just want to make sure you keep it in the middle. You know, you don't have your fabric getting wonky. And as you're stitching along, you are trimming the edges and getting a finished seam there. And I know my 4 thread overlock on my machine is a 1/4 inch. So once I do this, I know I'm good to go to put it in the binding of my quilt with the 1/4 inch seam. Then you take that and you use that foot to actually put it into the project that you're making. Because the groove on the underside of the foot will hold it in place so you get it in there snugly in the seam. So you get it lined up both the fabric right sides together, stick it under the foot and get the cording in that groove underneath the foot. Now, if you were trying to do this on a sewing machine without a piping foot, where you sew the piping together would be all wobbly and it really would not look good. So if you're going to use piping, you need a piping foot at least for your sewing machine or for your serger. The serger is faster and it also does the cutting at the same time, but you can do it with either. So you see how I think that piping just makes things look so much more professional. It can be such a nice accent. And here are some other items that I've used piping on. On this jacket here, there's piping to, just add some more interest to set the front button area off from the decorative stitches to the right and the left. And then on this wall hanging, to separate this print from the black border, I think the red adds a lot to it. And then this pillow has the turquoise piping all the way around, and the stitches are actually turquoise, so it just makes a nice contrast. So you can see. So this was made with the in embroidery, and the design I made in the My Sewnet software, our new spiral wizard. You can make designs like this about 30 seconds. And so it made this design. Then I took it into the quilt block wizard and added micro stippling, then some candle wicking. So, and then at the very end, some crystals. But the piping is why I picked this up, because I think that turquoise plays off of the turquoise micro stippling and looks really nice. I think if you make pillows and you don't put piping on, you didn't do the whole job. Okay, so the blind hem and lace foot. I think that probably most of you have seen how to do a blind hem, so I thought I would show you how to put on lace with this foot. And now we're stepping up into the Admire Air 7000. We are still using a serger stitch, but this is a foot that the 7000 has that the 5000 does not. So again, a 3 or 4 thread overlock stitch. And you have the fabric right side up, and you take the lace and put the lace wrong side up. So you've got the right side of the lace to the right side of the fabric. And I usually leave a little gap. And the foot has a adjustable guide on the side. Let's see if I can make this bigger. Yes, maybe so. So it has an adjustable guide. So I'm moving it over a little bit. And the guide holds the lace in place where I want it to be, because I want it over a little bit so that I shave off the kind of loose strings on the side of the fabric where it was cut. And as I'm sewing it down, I'm sewing down the lace, but I'm also creating a finished edge so that, again, when it's laundered or with wear, there's not going to be any raveling. You just want to be sure that your lace, you're just biting into the edge of the lace. You're not sewing down the middle of it. You're sewing down on the edge of the lace. And then when it's all done, you're going to fold the lace up and press it in place, but you have that nice finished edge. See if I can get this so you can see it better. There we go. And I'm going to press it so you'll see what it ultimately looks like. So you end up with this finished edge as well as the lace in place. And that's what it looks like on the wrong side. Then going back to that serger foot bag that I made, on the back side, the side that didn't have the embellishments that I made on that side, this side I did some, I used the lace foot to add the lace to this pocket area and then sewed the pocket in place. Okay. Now let's sort of shift gears and talk a bit about cover stitch and chain stitch. Now with serging or overlocking, you tend to, more often than not, it's more of a technique to do on the edge of a garment, on that, like putting on elastic on an edge, putting a rolled hem on an edge, some kind of decorative element. Now you can get around that limitation by folding. Like for instance, you can create something that looks like this with decorative threads by you fold it to make an edge and you do your rolled edge along that edge and then undo that and fold it again. And this is embroidery thread, so it's got a nice shine to it. So you can do something that's more, say, on the interior of a project rather than the edge. And this is, like I said, embroidery thread. And then you can make a slightly different effect by sewing it in different directions so you get this kind of wavy look. So you can do things like that with the serger, but with the cover stitch and the chain stitch, you can go right into the middle of the fabric. It's more typically used to do edges, like to do hems on knit garments. All of us have some kind of knit garment, a t-shirt or a knit top. If you look at the hem, you'll see two lines of stitches, looks like straight stitches, and then on the inside, there's some stitches that connect the two together. That's the cover stitch. One line of cover stitch is what the chain stitch is, basically. And the beauty of the cover stitch, one of the beauties of it, is that for knits, you can stretch it and it's not going to pop like it would if you did a straight stitch on a knit shirt and then you put on 5 pounds and you stretch that thing on, and you might have some seams that pop or some threads that pop. You can also use chain stitch or cover stitch to do those knit bindings, and I'm going to show you how you can do that. So if you like to work with knits, you need a serger and a chain stitch cover stitch machine. You will love it. Okay, so switching gears there. Let's see where I am here. We'll talk a little bit about cover stitching first before we jump into the feet. So this is what's called a cover stitch narrow, which means that the two lines of stitches are closer together. I might get my pin back on. So that's the narrow part. This is what it looks like on the top. This is what it looks like underneath. So I sewed this upside down. And this is using a variegated 12-weight thread. So you might want that on the top side. It can be a decorative element. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the inside of your garment. You might want to use that as decoration depending upon the threads that you use. Then this next example is a cover stitch wide, and this is what a cover stitch wide looks like. Now, sometimes when you do the cover stitch wide on very thin knits, you get something that looks like this on the top. Not so hot, because it kind of overstretches. That what I find and that helps, and what I did on the bottom, is I use a product that gives the fabric a little more stability. So the Stitch Witchery is one of those products that I put it on the wrong side. I turned the edge under and I pressed it, and it gave it enough stability that I then got this result instead of this result. So that's where, a product like the Stritz product really comes in handy. Just a little tip. Then, so that's the cover stitch wide. Then cover stitch narrow. I'm sorry, cover stitch triple has 3 lines of stitches. Let's see if I can make this bigger, actually. So you have 3 lines of stitches instead of 2. And then on the back side, you would see something like this. Now, I used white thread in the top, obviously, because you just saw that. So that's why you're seeing the white thread on this triple stitch. If I had used the variegated thread on the top and the bottom, then this might even be prettier. Okay. So in looking at those, you might think, well, why can't I just use a twin needle, or a triple needle? Using a chain stitch is much more stable for knit fabrics. If you are using a twin needle on a sewing machine, it's not going to work as well with knit fabrics when you stretch them. The other thing is, if you've used twin needles a lot, you'll know that they do break more easily, and at least in sewing, and they can create ridges and tunneling. So that's some of the advantages over a twin needle. Now the cover stitch binder. So the cover stitch binder, see if I can get the picture up here. That's for doing necklines or anywhere that you want to create a knit cover over an edge. And it looks, really nice, very professional, and it's still stretchy. So I'm going to show you how you would go about doing that. So the cover stitch binder is a rather big attachment, and it has comes in this box. And it has a little metal platform that comes with it that you screw into the machine. And these screws have to be halfway up and down in the hole. And you're going to use any of the cover stitches, and you're probably going to want to, depending upon the look that you want, and you're probably going to want to increase the stitch length to 3.5. Now, as far as positioning it, there is some instructions that show you in the box how you get the device in the right place. It has to be against this ridge, this right angle point that comes down on the foot, and that point on the binder holds it in place. I'm sorry, needs to be right below that. Might be able, I think I get a better shot of it in a minute. Or I will come back to that to show you. Actually, let's stop that for a sec. And I think I have a better graphic. Well, maybe I don't. Ah, here it is. Okay, so when you are positioning this, let's see if I can show you. It's probably not going to be in focus, but the foot has a right angle on the edge, and basically there's a part of the foot that lines with the binder that lines up with it. It's when you have the picture in front of you and you have the binder in front of you, it's very clear. So you want to cut your binding 1 1/8 inches wide. And then you want a point on the end so that you can thread it through the binder. And it helps to have something pointy to pull it through there because it's kind of stretchy fabric. And then you put it through this sort of zigzaggy holder on the end. And then on the very end of the binder, this end, there's a right angle. There's two of them actually, and that's what creates the shaping of the binding. That's basically where the magic happens. When you pull the binding strip through, it creates that shape like bias binding has when you buy it in the package. So it creates that shape like that. So you want to take it with a cover stitch, you want to take a few stitches on the fabric. You don't start on air like you can with the serger portion, but you want to just check your stitch that it's stitching. And then you're going to stick your fabric in between the top fold and the bottom fold of the fabric. And because it's stretchy fabric, you're probably going to need something like tweezers to kind of poke it in there a bit and get it started. And then you just go slowly because you're going around a curve. You don't want to pull it. I mean, you want to have it, hold it in place, but you don't want to pull it because it is knit and you'll pull it out of shape. And you just go around the neck hole. I've got I think a cover stitch narrow. Yep, cover stitch narrow. And I'm using white thread for purposes of the demo. However, I would have used black if it were a real project. And I could have used a chain stitch, so that it would have been a single stitch rather than a double stitch. And that's what the back side looks like. So we have a finished edge on both sides. Okay, now let's go back to my presentation. So this is the same thing, only using a single stitch rather than the double stitch. Now I'm going to show you another application. I have the cover stitch set up on the Admire Air 7000 here in my sewing area. And I wanted to quickly show you how to make a baby blanket with a nice rolled edge. I had this morning, let's see if I can get this so that you can see it, embroidered my, I can't get it over on the camera right. Let's try another camera. So I embroidered my future grandson's name on the piece of fabric, and I quickly made some binding, just like you do a quilt binding where you, but this is flannel. And so I added enough, I had to add the strips together just like regular binding. And then you end up with this nice binding on the edge of the flannel fabric. So I'll show you right now. I've gone all the way around and I'm negotiating the last curve. I thought you might want to see that. So let's go back to this angle. And hopefully my hands will not be in the way of the camera too much. So I'm starting to negotiate the curve. Now, I did this in a rush, so when I was putting the binding together, one of the joins I did on the wrong side. So I'm going to have to pull that out, but I'll do that a little bit later. So I'm just going to show you how you negotiate the curve around the edge of the baby blanket. So what I do is I kind of put my hand like this, and I'm going to go slow, and I'm just going to kind of torque it ever so slightly. But I'm watching here to make sure that the edge of this fabric stays right in that V of the way the fabric is bent by the binder. Now, as you're doing it, you also periodically need to look over and make sure that this isn't getting twisted, because that will sometimes happen. Now, if this were a straightaway, I could go much faster, but going around the curve, I want to go real slow. Get my blanket back in place. And continue. So you see you get this nice result. Oh, I skipped a stitch there, but you do generally, if you're not talking while you're doing it, you get a nice result, and you can even go around the corners. Then when I get down here, I will probably take this out, overlap it, and then just do the narrow cover stitch on top to finish off that last part. So that's the cover stitch binder. Now I'm going to take that off in a second and show you, oh, we're almost out of time, but I did want to show you the air threading. So let's get this off of here. So while I'm doing this, if anybody has any questions, it would be a good time to ask them, because this takes a minute to get this device off. Okay, so with the Admire Air 7000, to open it up, you just slide it to the right and it opens up like so. And right now it's set up for cover stitch. If I wanted to change this to the serging portion, I just basically, I take this part off, the part off here, and this is labeled B on here, so I know this is the cover stitch part. And then I slide in the A part, working around the cameras here. That goes into place. And then there is a slide here that goes from B to A. I put that on A and close it up, and I'm ready to go. It's that easy to go from cover stitch to serging or serging to cover stitch. Now, to show you how to use the air threader, I'll just cut this here and pull that out. Get the right thread to pull out. Fortunately, I'm using all white thread, so I'm not quite sure which one is the looper. Maybe pull it from that end. Okay, to thread this, change my view here. I've got my thread up at the top. I know you probably can't see the top part, but that's pretty. You want to see the air threading part. There is a part that holds the thread down at the top, and then a part here, little metal piece that holds it in place there. Now there is another button here that needs to be pushed to the left. To the left, that it is now in threading mode as opposed to sewing mode. Once I put it into threading mode, I need to turn the hand wheel until the looper tubes close. Then I take my thread and I want to push in about 1.5 inches into the hole, and make sure I have plenty of thread laying out, but it shouldn't be caught up on anything. Push the button and it's threaded. So, I mean, if I wanted to, I could thread all of them at once. I mean, it's pretty slick. Like I said, once you have an air threader, you just never want to go back. Okay, so that's the air threading. And I wanted to show you how to thread using the metal lasso. So let me see if I can find it really quick, and then we will end this session. I apologize. And I didn't have it available right there. Okay, got it. So the thing that I'm talking about that comes with the machine is this little metal lasso that has a loop on the end. This is for threading things through the looper that are too thick to go through the air threader. I mean, it threads it through the air threader. For threading things through the air threader that are too thick to go through the air threader, but will work through the looper, like say an 8-weight thread, something like that. Or if you had 3 threads, I would do this the same exact way. So if I were trying to thread 3 threads, I'd put my 3 spools up on the top. I'd put them all through the looper slot, whichever looper I'm using, bring them down. Then I would place this lasso in here, and you push it until you see it come out the looper. But not all the way in, but you should see it come out the looper so that you can grab it. Okay, and now it's metal and I'm not seeing it. Let's try this looper. It's closer to the front so we can see it on camera. Well, it's not, you can't really see the metal against the metal. Let me get a black thread, and you can do the same thing that you would do with the metal looper, and you'll see this better because that metal doesn't show up against the metal looper very well on the camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little noose on the end of a piece of thread. Of course, when you're trying to do this in a hurry, it takes twice as long. Okay, question. Is there a difference in the cover stitch binder and the binder for the sewing machine? Yes, they are machined differently. So they are different. So I've got my lasso, and what I'm going to do is, as if I'm threading this, I'm going to stick this in the hole like this was my looper thread. But I'm going to hold on to the end because I don't want it to get sucked all the way in. Okay, so now I don't know if I thought you could see this better. There is a black thread coming out here, out of my looper, which I can't grab a hold of. Here it is, right here. So I've got the thread here. I've got the thread here. I put my 3 threads through here and then just pull them through the looper. But again, you only need to do this lasso technique with really thick threads, or if you're going to use more than 1 thread through 1 looper. Like I use 3 embroidery threads to make this tassel. So I hope that you all learned something today, and I got you excited about serging and about serger accessories. I think that they really increase the power of the serger, having those accessories. I am going to, starting tomorrow, take these little snippets and add some more information to each of them and make them standalone little videos to put on my YouTube channel, Nancy Bronstein Sews. They may someday be on the Pfaff page. I don't know. I don't have control over that. I have control over my page. So if there was a particular foot that you're interested in seeing again, you don't want to watch the whole thing, the whole Facebook Live, it will be on my page there. And of course, this video has been recorded and will show up on the page after today. And I will check the questions that were placed after today. If you watch it, on a later date, I'll check for the next week or so to answer any questions. And again, thank you very much for joining us today. I hope I got you, as I said, I hope I got you excited about serging. And in 2 weeks, we're going to do decorative stitches. So unless anybody has any questions, we are done. What feet come with the 7000 serger? The foot that comes with it is your like general overlock foot. And that is the only foot that comes with it. Let's go back to the first slide here, because I've got pictures of these are the 7000 accessories. They come in bundles to a certain degree. The one on the left is the cover stitch itself. Then your overlock feet come in a kit, and your cover stitch feet come in another kit. And then the beading foot and the wavy edge foot are separate. So that's currently the way that the 7000 feet are packaged. But with the foot that comes with it, there's many, many things that you can do. You can do rolled edges, and you can even do gathering. I think you get a more intense gathering with a gathering foot. But you can certainly do gathering by adjusting the differential line with the overlock foot that comes with the serger. You do your 4 and your 3 thread overlock stitches. You can put in zippers. There's all kinds of things you can do with that regular foot. But the extra feet, more stuff. Is it possible to order 100 needles for the? It says 100 needle for the 7000. You're saying a size 100 needle, not 100 needles in a package, I'm assuming, because sometimes you can buy needles in bulk. I know for sure there's an 80 and a 90, and I'm pretty sure there's a 100. You would use the regular serger needles, the HL. I'd have to look it up. It's in your manual. It's your typical serger needle. And I'm pretty sure that there are size 100 needles, but I don't have any myself, so I'm not going to say for sure. But I am pretty sure that they are available. And you just use your regular serger needles, not sewing machine needles. Let's see, any other questions? I think that was it. Okay, so again, thank you. We went over time a little bit. I hope you join me in 2 weeks, and have a nice evening. And happy sewing and serging. Bye-bye.